Hi, everybody. In this video, we are going to discuss some best practices for making the most out of your online synchronous sessions with your students. First item to note is the importance of communication. You want to make sure that your students know the when and the how of how you're going to be meeting with them throughout the semester, any particular tech requirements that you're going to have, as well as any community guidelines or netiquette and participation expectations that you have. These guidelines might also be something that you want to develop with students at the beginning of the course as a way to sort of set the tone for and help facilitate that sense of community in the class. Once you have this information, it's important to share it in multiple places. Different instructors use Canvas differently, and so students may be used to going to different places to find information in a Canvas course. So making sure to share it in places like the syllabus or the syllabus page, a module, as well as an announcement can make sure that students are finding the information that they need. Another important consideration is students' access to technology. While synchronous sessions can be great for helping to facilitate that sense of community in an online class, they're also a high bandwidth, high immediacy kind of activity, meaning that students who don't have access to high-speed internet may struggle with connectivity issues and meeting those live sessions. The OTL has created a student technology access survey, which you can copy and send to your students to try to get a sense of what their access to technology is like. The link to that's going to be on the page where you found this video. It's also a good idea to let students know about the Dean of Students office and their support for students who might need access to things like computers or hotspots in order to make meeting those synchronous sessions a little easier for them. But keeping these other considerations in mind, it's a good idea to also incorporate some flexibility into a course, particularly considering camera and attendance policies. Because you don't know what kind of internet students may be working with, it can be really difficult sometimes to leave a camera on for an entire session if the connection is laggy. At the same time, if students have temporarily lost access to internet, they may not be able to attend on a particular day. So giving them some flexibility is good. It's also a good idea to take some time at the beginning of class and give your students and you time to practice with your chosen technologies, if it's Zoom, if it's Teams, if it's something else you've incorporated into your class, just so that everyone feels comfortable with the technology and knows what you're expecting them to do with it. You'll also want to consider whether or not you plan to record the sessions to share with students. While this could be helpful as a tool for some to catch up if they're unable to attend, it's also good to keep in mind that this could make students a little more uncomfortable with participating if they know that they're being recorded. So it's, maybe there's a middle solution where you only record parts of sessions or something like that to try to balance out student comfort and providing them with resources to help be successful in class. It's also important to keep cognitive load in mind and sort of what limits are. It's better to keep synchronous sessions short, like maybe around an hour, or if you have to be scheduled at a longer time, to make sure that you incorporate some breaks throughout the session so students can have a moment to just disengage from the screen, even if it's just briefly. Have a moment to stand up, stretch, get a glass of water, or something like that, just to help mitigate the effects of Zoom fatigue. It's also a good idea to think about trying to build flexibility into your sessions in how students are able to participate, whether it's, unmuting their microphones and talking, spending some time working in smaller groups, using the chat function to respond as opposed to unmuting their microphone, using polling and other things like that. Just giving students more options for how they participate can help them feel more comfortable in the online environment and participating in class. Another little pro tip to note is that you may want to pause a little longer than normal to wait for responses after you pose a question. Sometimes because of internet lag and things like that, it can take a little longer for students to hear your question after you've posed it. So giving them, those few extra seconds to make sure that they've heard your question and have a little bit of time to think before they respond, and it can also take longer if they're typing a response. So just getting a little comfortable with leaving some extra silence there possibly for students to answer, or even giving them sort of a time, like I'm going to ask this question and wait 30 seconds or a minute or something, and let students respond how they want to. And it's always frustrating, but sometimes tech issues are going to happen, but you will find a way to pivot and make the session work as best that you're able in the moment. And if you're encountering issues, the OTL is also here to help you figure out what's happening there and try to help. Last thing we want to talk about is just thinking about how you chunk your synchronous sessions. It's a good idea to be sort of proactive in thinking about how you can chunk that time into some different activities, and also change up the format between Zoom sessions, because it can help keep your students engaged, help combat the Zoom fatigue, and also help keep sort of the class from getting kind of stuck in a rut. So, as this example here, if you started out giving some kind of poll and letting that kind of trigger a class discussion, and then maybe you gave the students some sort of breakout room activity to do, and then you debrief as a class, and then have them do some sort of reflection or assessment on their work. Maybe for another session, you start differently and put them into breakout rooms first before doing other types of discussion or debriefing, just to kind of switch up the order of activities and how you make use of that synchronous time. So these are just a few best practices we wanted to share. As always, if you would like to brainstorm with someone from the OTL or have questions or need some assistance, please feel free to reach out, and we will be happy to help. So thanks.